Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our show tonight. As we've been doing for some time, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everybody now, including myself, to please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
America's finest, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. What a beautiful number. This is probably one of the hardest songs in the world to perform, and these gentlemen did it in such a great fashion. We appreciate their performance. We also appreciate them for what they've done. We want to tell all of our armed forces service members, wherever they might be around the world, how much we love and appreciate them. I am asking all of you within the sound of my voice tonight and always, if you see a service member in uniform, go up to them and tell them how much you love and appreciate them and thank them for their service. I do that all the time. Whenever I see a uniformed service member, I always go up to them and thank them for their service. Thank you so much, guys. I want to thank also our armed forces allies, whoever they might be around the globe. May God bless our allies and also our own service members, wherever they might be. God bless them that they might return to their families after their tours of duty end in safety. God bless you all. Thank you for your service. We appreciate that ever so much. Folks, it's a pleasure to be here with you. It really is. It's more than just a pleasure. It's a privilege to be here with you every day. Now, I'm going to play some videos for you because I want you to know what's going on. Very few people are actually telling the truth as to what is going on here in North, South Carolina, Virginia, and down into Georgia. Very few people are even telling the truth anymore. And that's bad. It's really, really bad. Let's go over to Fox News first with this report about the weather and what is happening up on the mountaintop in western North Carolina.
And this is a Fox Weather Alert as we continue to monitor the aftermath of Helene. Good Thursday afternoon. We thank you for being here with us on Fox Weather. Right now it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 p.m. out west. I'm Ian Oliver, and this is Fox Weather Now. Right now, we want to get you the latest headlines on this still unfolding disaster across the Southeast. And sadly, we just got an update into the Fox Forecast Center. The death toll has been updated. It's now revised up to at least 215 people. The search continues for the unaccounted for. That exact number is still unknown. Many communities remain cut off by damaged roads, bridges, or debris. Some of the infrastructure in the region has been completely destroyed. President Biden authorized 1,000 active duty soldiers to help distribute food and water across the region as that infrastructure is still being restored. Clearly, it's been a tragic week since Hurricane Helene made landfall, commencing its deadly path across the region. Now day 7 of what will be a lengthy road to recovery is underway. Fox Weather meteorologist Steve Bender is live on the ground in Asheville, North Carolina. That's one of the hardest hit areas, Steve. They did release some new information in a 4 o'clock press conference. I'm not sure if you could hear that. The death toll has been amended up. More than a third of the fatalities directly related to Helene there in Buncombe County, where you are in Asheville. That is a spot that has just been devastated by this storm.
It's so difficult, Ian, because you think about it when you see all of these images. By the way, behind us, another spot of Biltmore Village. They're doing their best to try to clear out this mud. Notice all the windows were blown out. The water got in. We're going to talk more about the business side of this here in a moment, but back to what you're saying, when you see that death toll continue to climb for Buncombe County, it's because of the vulnerability of this area. You have area that 95,000 people call home right here in Asheville. So that automatically increases the risk of loss of life because of just how many people are here in Western North Carolina and then those other spots that are in the mountains and just nearby into Asheville. And it's difficult when you're hearing these updates and also just to process everything we see around. I mean, all of this is nonstop work, and really all you're doing is just moving the muck a little further so that way you can get bigger type of equipment in here to clear this out. Now, the business owner for this was David Ross. Now, very unique guy because he's not only a business owner, he's also a general contractor. He was here back in 2004. Ian, there was Francis that came back here. The Swananoa River flooded. This area was 4 feet underwater. Now, here's the difference between 4 feet. It didn't get into those windows. So all these buildings were spared in this area, but many of these buildings down the main strip suffered a similar type of flooding event, and he had to gut them all. So he has a unique experience because of that. He has come together to take over 15 of these different properties to help get them back and build them out. So I said, what's this process called right now? He says, we're in the gutting phase. We're getting everything out. We're getting out all the muck so there's no mold that forms. That's one phase. Now I asked him, I said, look, I know it's early on, but people are wondering, what will Biltmore look like in a month, a year from now? He said his goal is to get many of these spots open back in a year from now. So that's optimistic, and he thinks he can get it done. Now, I talked with another business owner about 3 miles away. You've already met him. He talked about his CrossFit gym and how the resiliency of this community brought it all back together, and they're clearing out. But I want to hear you to listen again to Dr. Duvall, because he was at his home, and he warned everybody about this potential, why he didn't have his gym open on that day. Take a listen to what unfolded on Friday.
Friday, we took a pretty big storm, and I came down on Saturday and saw the devastation here. When I purchased the property, it was the 100-year flood risk was 4 feet, and so we built out new bathrooms and showers with concrete to withstand that. We had as much equipment as we could, raised about 10 feet up off the ground, and got wiped away more than we thought was coming. So this is our first day. We've got a bunch of people here helping out. We're salvaging whatever equipment we can out of the mud, and getting ideas on how to get some of these cars out of here and how to start repairing the building.
So he's in that phase 1, 2, trying to get everything out. Remember, he just referenced that flood. Again, they try to build up above that, but you can't prepare for something like this that's historic, that's catastrophic. Another thing that David had mentioned, or Dr. Duvall, I should say, is that he has 80 different people that go to his gym. They're all accounted for, thankfully, and it's just a painful process because you're spending most of your time in that search and rescue, just trying to make sure your loved ones, your friends, and everything are okay. And that's taken days. Now you're talking about process 1, Ian, starting 7 days later, and it just is a cumulative effect of how long it will take for Asheville to get back on their feet.
Yeah, we know they're working toward it, Steve, but as you mentioned, that's a process that's gonna take a while. Steve Bender, thank you.
That's unreal, guys. It's going to take a while. It's going to take longer than a while. This is probably going to be years in the making of recovering Asheville and the surrounding communities. Let me play this next one for you to even bring it further close to home. It's incredible. This is the second worst storm in history. Hurricane Helene is the second worst storm in history. And again, over 215 people have been found dead as a result of Hurricane Helene.
If you want, we can pass it down.
Yeah.
I walk with a man who plans to deliver 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline and food to a friend whose storm-damaged house is at the bottom of a North Carolina gorge. The only road in and out was largely destroyed in the storm. So now you can only leave via emergency helicopter or by taking a vigorous and muddy 3-mile hike out about 1,000 feet up.
It will undoubtedly be a very long time before our vehicles are safely able to use this road again. Josh, how much farther do you think we have here?
The man I'm walking with, Josh Parker, hasn't been able to get in touch with his friend Brian and is worried. We run into other civilians who have been hiking down in order to help survivors who are either stranded or don't want to leave.
They got power chainsaws down there. Yeah.
As we approach the bottom of the Green River Cove Gorge, we run into Fred Russick. He was among many gorge residents who rode out the storm.
The older people with infirmities have been airlifted out. My place, total loss, but
I'm sorry.
I kind of expected that.
I'm sorry about it, man.
But I'm alive, and my loved ones are alive, and kinfolk and such, so we got everybody
I'm glad you're okay.
safe that night.
I'm glad you're okay.
We arrive at the bottom after about 90 minutes of hiking. Houses, RVs, cars, trucks destroyed. Roads have disappeared into the Green River, which is now so wide it's unrecognizable to residents.
Your house, you can tell, is beautiful.
It was. We'll get it back there again.
You're going to rebuild?
Oh, if they let us. We don't even know what's...
If they let you.
Yeah.
As we make our way farther into the gorge, a helicopter starts flying directly towards us. Aboard the chopper are members of the South Carolina Helicopter Aquatic Rescue Team. 2 of the rescuers being rappelled down to the ground to make sure people are okay. As of now, there have been no reports of deaths in the gorge or serious injuries. We see Fred Ruddock again at his property. He was in his home when the storm hit, but found higher ground.
This is where your house was before the storm?
Yes, sir. This is where my house was, the front corner. to the kitchen, right across that monkey grass. Door be facing right at us, just to the left of that push mower.
Okay, and there's this huge tree.
Yeah, the house got pivoted.
Here's where it is.
Turned to arrive there against those trees before the debris trapped it, so it didn't continue going down and around back into the river like most debris did here.
This is incredible.
It's incredible. I mean, it was epic. It's sad. I mean, I pretty much lost everything.
The house has been in Fred's family for more than a half century. His late grandmother lived there.
I wholly intend to rebuild. I feel like my sweet grandma Katie would have expected me to do so. She got me hooked on these whitewater rivers and the love of the great outdoors. This was beyond my control, Grandma Katie.
So you're doing this for your grandma, for yourself. This is your life.
This is it. This is in my blood.
Before hiking out of the gorge, Josh Parker finally gets to his friend Brian's house, only to find he's not there. We are told Brian was airlifted out just hours earlier, when his health became a concern.
Do you want to leave the gasoline here anyway?
I'm gonna leave it for somebody.
Yeah, somebody can use it.
Brian's dog Maggie wasn't taken on the chopper, but volunteers are about to take Maggie on the long hike out of the muddy gorge. Gary Tuckman, CNN, Green River Cove, North Carolina.
Green River Cove, North Carolina. It's a cove, all right. It's very much a cove, all right. Surrounded by water, the Green River has overflowed its banks, as you saw, and it's not even recognizable now. Folks, I watched Glenn Beck earlier today at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Glenn Beck put on his program, and an hour later he was out of there. Glenn Beck flew into an airport near here and ferried over supplies and equipment over into Asheville, North Carolina, and the surrounding communities over there. As you saw, Asheville is only a small bit of what it used to be. Asheville was a community of over 95,000 people, and now it's been devastated, totally devastated. It's incredible what happened there. Absolutely astounding what has happened there. People don't have lives anymore. Their lives have been turned upside down. I'm sorry to say. This country is falling apart, Berlinda Mustafa says. I agree. It truly is falling apart. Sweet Polly Purebreds here in the chat and has said that there are well over 300 people that have been found dead. They're not even reporting the numbers correctly. I agree. I don't believe they're telling us the true story of what is going on. Now, I can't tell you exactly how, well, I can tell you how I feel, but I can't report to you exactly anything other than what they're telling us. Okay? I would expect to see 300 plus people dead, and now they're saying over 1,000, maybe 1,100 people are still missing. I think their numbers are far above that. Okay? That's my point. Their numbers are far above that. They're not reporting to us the numbers. It's bad. Sweet Polly Purebred says 600 plus. They're lying about the numbers of souls, babies, and other people found floating in the water, in the trees. One man had 7 people in his yard. Stench is getting to be incredible. Pretty soon we're going to have untold diseases flowing through Asheville and the surrounding communities. That's because when there's dead bodies, just like we had during Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, when there's bodies floating in the lake over there, Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans, it's horrible. And that bacteria, the deadly bacteria that is floating in the water, spreads. And that's exactly what has happened here. They have to get those bodies to at least a makeshift morgue. It's unreal. We don't know if they've even got makeshift semi-trailers that have reefer units in them where they can put the bodies until they can get some kind of morgue set up where they can still start burying the dead there. It's unknown. I'm going to try to find out more information about that. But yes, I believe the numbers are far higher than they are saying that they are today. It's incredible. Christine is here in the chat, says, how's everybody doing? How I don't think the government is about the rain. The whole world is being flooded everywhere. I agree. The whole world is being flooded all over the place. Our government is trying to destroy us here in the United States and our governments around the world. Okay? The elites. The one world order government is trying to take over. And I believe the weather manipulation is being used to do it. I have to believe what I know to be true because I've seen it. We're seeing these disastrous storms all over. They can't control the sun, but they control the disastrous storms. We continue to see more disastrous storms than anywhere else in history. We continue to see these disastrous storms come ashore out of literally nowhere. This wasn't the case down in Cuba. What happened over in the Yucatan Peninsula when this hurricane came through there, it didn't destroy everything like it is now. This storm went from a Category 1 hurricane coming into the Gulf of Mexico, and by the time it got to Florida, all of a sudden it was a Category 4 storm. It's never happened before. It's never happened before like this. It's unreal. Diane Kelman's here in the chat saying, I heard they were finding dead bodies in trees. True. Children tied to wood with no parents in sight. I haven't heard that. I have nothing to prove that at all. Polypurebred is saying the agencies that's helping them with the first letter, FEMA. FEMA. Is Asheville making people apply to see if they're qualified for food. Add water, most of those items were confiscated. I believe some of that was confiscated, the food and the water. Okay? I believe that. Because the Biden administration told them to do it. Now I want to get into some of that as well. Okay? What has happened? What has happened? Our government, our FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, is giving people here in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and even up into Virginia, $750 to live on. They're giving the people $750 to live on. Most Hispanics, most migrants that have come into this country are given at least $2,500 a month, per month. The Biden administration is giving these people in Asheville and surrounding communities $750 one-time payments. That's bad. That's bad. And the reason why they are doing it, because the Biden-Harris administration, the Democrat Communist Party of America, wants to get these aliens, these illegal immigrants, to vote for the Democrat Party. They brought these people into the United States and they quickly registered them to vote. They quickly took them to the DMVs and got them driver's licenses. In getting them driver's licenses, they've helped these people also to register to vote, and they expect these people to get these voter registration cards and the ability to get ballots in their hands on November 5th and vote for the Democrat Communist Party. Unreal. Unreal. We knew this was going to happen. But they're giving these illegal people $2,500 to $5,000 a month. but they're only giving the people that have been involved with this hurricane $750 one-time payment. What a bunch of crap that is. It really is. It's a bunch of crap. It should never be happening. On top of that, literally on top of that, let me show you another statistic here in just a second. Let me bring it up. Right here. Okay? Biden just gave Ukraine another $8 trillion. Biden just gave Ukraine another $8 trillion. Yet they're only giving American victims $750 one-time payment. This little girl was rescued from floodwaters, scared out of her mind along with her little puppy. The Biden-Harris administration should be embarrassed by what they're doing. Imagine what that $8 trillion would have done for these victims. Imagine what that $8 trillion would have done for these victims. Rebuilt their properties, got the infrastructure back to where it should have been, and make our country grow. But that's not what the Biden crime family is doing. Before the war started in Ukraine, the Biden crime family was involved in Ukraine. Back when Obama was president, Biden was his vice president. Biden traveled to Ukraine. Biden didn't like the way things were going. Biden told Ukraine to fire their attorney general. And he told them that if they did not fire him, that Ukraine would not get another dime. Within 72 hours, that man was fired. Since that time, Biden has also been paid by Ukraine. Biden and his crime family have been paid by Ukraine. Hunter Biden and his niece have also funneled payments into the Biden crime family coffers. And now he's sending U.S. taxpayer money over to Ukraine hand over fist. Imagine what that would do for our own people. Just imagine what that would do for our own people. These people don't care. The head of our government doesn't give a flying rat's butt. Diane Kelman says, giggling at one of her stupid jokes. Yeah, Harris is giggling at her own stupid jokes. Okay? Arnold Schmidt is asking, where is Kamala? Last time she was seen in California on campaign. Well, guess what? Yesterday, Kamala flew into South Carolina. She was photographed making telephone calls and speaking to authorities about the hurricane in North Carolina or South Carolina. I showed you that picture yesterday. A photo op on Air Force Two, where she was at her desk supposedly writing on a piece of paper. But there was no writing on the piece of paper at all. It was a photo op. She said she was supposedly talking on her phone there, but her headphones were not plugged into the phone. Another lie from Kamala Harris. Just like the other night when her running mate went up against J.D. Vance. Lie after lie after lie. And the mainstream media forcing the issue. The mainstream media, CBS News anchors, 2 women attacking J.D. Vance, feeding Tim Walz little strawberry questions. And Tim Walz was not even able to answer those questions honestly. Tim Walz stumbled all over the place. Tim Walz lied after lie after lie. Incredible. He said he was in China when he wasn't. That was one of the biggest takeoffs from the debate from 2 nights ago. He lied and he lied and he lied. It's incredible what they get here. Now, quite frankly, I'm tired of it all, as I know some of you are as well. But we can't let it go. We must remember what we've seen. We must remember what we're being told, not from the mainstream media. Do not pay attention to the mainstream media. Do not pay attention to the polls. The mainstream media is feeding the polls, saying that Kamala is ahead, or she tied side by side with J.D. Vance and President Trump. She's not. She's absolutely not tied with Trump at all. Trump is going to kick her butt. President Trump is going to kick her butt unless the Democrat communists mess with the machines to vote and they get all these aliens to vote for Kamala Harris. Over in Pennsylvania has already been saying that they're not going to allow these ballot boxes to be put on street corners. They were asked why they were not going to allow the ballot boxes to put on street corners. The authorities in Pennsylvania said that they're not going to allow these ballot boxes to put on street corners because those ballot boxes will not be able to be supervised. Those ballot boxes that the Democrats want put up cannot be supervised. So they're not putting them up, and the Democrat Communist Party is livid. So if the Democrats don't have the ballot boxes on street corners anymore, they can't have a midnight flush on ballots like they did in 2020. They just can't. Now, everything that we were told by the mainstream media and Facebook and Twitter before Elon Musk took over was lies. Lie after lie after lie. Zuckerberg from Facebook now admits that he was told by the Biden administration and the FBI. Yes, the FBI. He was told by the FBI to make sure that anyone talking about President Trump was censored. Anybody talking about anything other than Biden, positive words, were to be censored. So he hired a bunch of people to censor the administration. He did. He hired all kinds of people to fact check. And they did the same thing at Twitter. Elon Musk found out about it. And he took over Twitter, now it's X. Now X is not censoring much of anything. The only thing X would censor is somebody threatening somebody's life. They will censor that. But the FBI has not changed their course. The FBI has not changed their course at all. The FBI should be investigating why Trump was set up to be killed. But they're not even telling the truth about that. They can't. Because they will uncover their own lack of propriety. And heaven forbid the FBI would have to admit that they're wrong. And then what the FBI has done is wrong. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again right now, and I'll say it probably many times going on in the future. The FBI should be torn down. The FBI should be dismantled and every one of them fired. Every one of the FBI agents that's in charge right now should be fired. All of them. And there's those people that are also out there in the ranks should be fired as well. Then an interview process should be had. And only those FBI agents that are willing to tell the truth and are not willing to falsify documents could be rehired. But all the rest of them should be fired immediately, if not sooner. Now, I've been doing an investigation behind the scenes here. Trump has had 3 attacks. Trump has actually had 4 attacks. One Iranian attack last week. Before that, the guy at the fence, Ralph, who's still in jail in Florida, and the FBI agents are trying to put him into federal custody, and Mr. DeSantis is not going to allow it. Governor DeSantis wants to keep that person in private custody with federal officers. If DeSantis is not allowed to keep Ralph in custody, guess what's going to happen? Ralph will be taken out of Florida custody, and then he will disappear. That's what the federal government does. Makes people disappear. Okay? With the federal government, they're only charging Ralph with 2 crimes, both of those felonies, that would keep him behind bars for 40 years. But Florida has multi-charges against him to keep Ralph in custody for 2 or 3 lifetimes. The federal government doesn't want to do that. Okay? Diane Cummins here in the chat says, and Joey called Trump a dictator. He should look in his own mirror. I agree. Joey and Harris have called Trump a dictator and said that if he gains power again, he will become a dictator from that point forward. That's what the Democrat communists are putting out. The Democrat communists are full of crap. And I'm being nice. I'm being nice. Okay, let's get away from that for just a minute. I want to show you this, okay? Earlier today at about 8 a.m. this morning, just a second, let me turn on my air here. Let me turn on my fan. My wife is in the other room talking to her sons, and so she closed my office door, and now I have no circulation except for this fan here, and I just turned it on. Anyway, we had a CME launch off the sun at 8 o'clock this morning. A great big deal. A huge deal. Okay? A huge deal. It's huge. It really is huge. This was the largest solar flare that we've seen during the last cycle 25. We're in solar cycle 25. Okay? Big solar flares. Big CMEs. We've had 2 solar flares launched from this sunspot on the sun. Sunspot 3842. Sunspot 3842. This is what it looked like when it launched off. First, an X7.1. The first one was an X-Class 7.1. The next one was an X-Class 9. An X-Class actually 9.1. It was huge. So far, this is the largest solar flare of this cycle. And within the next 48 hours, Earth is going to get hit with plasma radiation. Now, there's been some controversy on YouTube. Several people have come on YouTube talking about this solar flare. I don't agree with some of them. I do not agree with some of these people. They're trying to make mountains out of molehills. Yes, this was a huge solar flare. I'm not debating that. But they were talking about grid down situations. This is not going to be a grid down situation, or it may have already been that. Why do I say that? Because these X-class flares launched off the sun this morning. The X-ray radiation has already reached the Earth within a matter of hours. The plasma radiation will reach the Earth within the next 48 hours. What does that mean? We have already seen earthquakes all around the Earth today. A lot of earthquakes all around the Earth today. Now, what are we going to expect today, tomorrow, and into Saturday? What do you think is going to happen? Can anybody tell me what you think is going to happen? Canadian Patriot 1 is saying big auroras coming and possibly radio outages. The radio outages already started this morning on the Earth side facing the sun. North America and Central America. The Earth side facing the sun. We got hit. The auroras will stay in Canada and the Northern Hemisphere. The auroras are going to stay up in Canada around the Arctic Circle area and the Southern Pole. That's where the auroras are going to stay. Northern Canada, Northern Alaska, Russia, and Scandinavia. That's where the auroras are going to be seen. The auroras are not going to be seen in the lower latitudes. It's not going to happen. But we've already had solar radiation hitting the Earth. X-ray radiation. X-ray radiation. That radiation is going to turn into plasma radiation within the next 24 hours. Let me take my mug down here and take my banner off here, and I want to show you what is going to happen here, because we've already seen some earthquakes here already today. We've seen it happen. Yesterday we told you about an earthquake down in the southern mid-Atlantic. That was a 5.5 earthquake. This is a 5.0 in the north mid-Atlantic. A large 5.0 in the north mid-Atlantic. This 5.0 may have been relative to the 5.5 that was down in the south mid-Atlantic yesterday. So we see this seismic energy moving north up the mid-Atlantic fault. Not to be outdone. Let's go over here to the southern tip of Africa. Prince Edward Island region. This is a 5.0 earthquake. A 5.0 earthquake 10 kilometers deep. Let's go back here to this one in the north mid-Atlantic. This is also 10 kilometers deep. I just wanted to point that out. Then let's go over here to this earthquake in the southwestern part of the Indian Ocean, southeast of Madagascar Island. This is another 5.0, and USGS is now saying it's a 4.9. It's not. This is not a 4.9. Again, the U.S. Geological Survey wants everybody to believe nothing's happening. This was a much larger earthquake, while this one over here near Prince Edward Island was a 5.0, and that's all it is. I've already done my checking. But this earthquake here south of Madagascar is a much larger earthquake, probably 5.3 earthquake. Okay? Let's go over here to northeast India, Myanmar region. This is a 4.2 earthquake. While the others were 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep, this is 99 kilometers deep. Basically 100 kilometers deep. That is still a fairly shallow earthquake. Let's move over here. Okay? Why am I showing you this? Folks, this is near Caburan, Philippines. This is South Mindanao, Philippines, the biggest island in the Philippines. Okay? A 4.8 moderate earthquake here. This is 110 kilometers deep. South of that, this is over in northern Indonesia, Tubelo, Indonesia area. This is a 4.8 earthquake. Interesting. But USBS is not showing all the earthquakes here. There are 18 earthquakes here in Indonesia. And USBS showing 2. Only 2. This one over in southeastern Indonesia, Fafak, FAK, Indonesia, a 4.7. Sweet Polly Purebred says Brian Gunderson said to look for heat signatures that would be a clue for possible friction going on. Yes, I did look for heat signatures and I did not see that. But during the next 48 to 72 hours, I believe we will see heat signatures. What is happening then? Why do we need to wait 48 to 72 hours? We're going to wait for the plasma radiation to reach the Earth. The plasma radiation will heat up the plates. The plasma radiation will heat up the plates. What is that going to mean? Let me take this USGS map down for just a minute. I want to explain to you what is actually going to happen. Okay? Bring up my mug here so you have to look at me. I've talked about this many times. When the plasma radiation hits from the sun, it comes out here from the sun and it literally engulfs the Earth like this. The plasma radiation from the sun is going to hit the plates. What happens when the plasma radiation hits the plates and goes down to the center core of the Earth? What happens? The center core of the Earth heats up even more. The plates heat up. All the friction that holds the plates in place, all the gunk, all the dirt, all the gravel, all the sand, everything. The biological material heats up and turns into a greasy, oily substance, which allows the plates to move more freely like this. So sometime between now and Sunday, we are going to see earthquakes. We are going to see a lot of earthquakes. Again, we had a X 7.1 flare, and then we had an X 9.1. So we are going to see this happen. Two different CMEs launched from the sun. The plasma radiation hitting the Earth on Saturday into Sunday should be tremendous. I don't think we've had two solar flares that were X-class flares launched at nearly the same time, any time in our past. No, I haven't been watching plasma radiation for the last. I've only been watching plasma radiation solar flares launched from the sun for the past 2 to 3 years. Prior to that, I didn't notice anything, and nobody was talking about it. But we've been watching it for some time. And tonight, I think when Mark Wages gets off work and he gets a chance to come on the air tonight over on Wages World, I think we all should watch it. I think we should watch what Mark Wages has to say. He's an expert. He's an expert. While Brian Gunderson does a good job, Mark Wages is an expert on the sun. And I don't think many of the other people here on YouTube do anything but report what they see or hear, but they have no background in it. But Mark Wages does have a background in these solar flares. And I want to talk about what is going on. Whether I am on here talking about earthquakes at any one point or time, I will come on the air when these earthquakes start happening. I will come on the air to talk about what is going on, I promise you that. I will not leave you stranded. It's not going to happen. When these major earthquakes start happening, I will be there. I want people to know what's going on. And yes, I believe we're going to have some big solar storms. Okay? Now, I want to go over to the Mariana Trench here. Okay? You go over here to the Mariana Trench. This is just southwest of Guam. This is a 4.6 moderate earthquake. Out here in the ocean on the Mariana Trench. This is a this is 91 kilometers deep. A moderate 4.6 earthquake. It was not near any land, and no landmass is endangered by that earthquake. That earthquake is far enough away from Guam and any other islands over there in the Mariana Island area. The ocean waters absorb the shock waves of that quake. Let's come over here. Now we're talking about Papua New Guinea. This is a very large 5.4 earthquake. A very large 5.4 earthquake. Now, this is in the Mariana region. I shouldn't say Mariana region, I'm sorry. This is in the Indonesia, Papua New Guinea region. It's away from most land masses, okay? There are only some small, possibly unoccupied islands out here in the Pacific. This is a very large 5.4 earthquake. It's also only 10 kilometers deep. Probably nobody felt this earthquake. Notice one thing. When we talk about very large earthquakes and they're very close to the surface, shallow quakes, shallow large earthquakes have much more of an effect on land masses that they're near than these deep quakes do. The ocean waters absorb the shock waves of this quake. 10 kilometers deep. Okay? The ocean waters absorb the shock waves of that quake. However, let's go over here to the South Pacific here. Okay? Over here. By the South Pacific, I'm talking about Fiji here. This earthquake was nowhere near a landmass in Fiji. 246 kilometers east of Levuka, Fiji. Levuka, Fiji is a very large island in Fiji. This is a 4.5 moderate earthquake. This is also a deep earthquake. This 4.5 deep earthquake, 533 kilometers deep. This deep earthquake is going to propagate a 5.2, 5.3 earthquake. It's going to propagate a 5.2, 5.3 earthquake within the next probably 72 hours, and I'm going to say 72 hours to 5 days. 3 to 5 days. I don't think that this will propagate any longer than that. Okay? Why do I say that? Because again, we've had a major solar flare. 2 of them. Those solar flares are going to heat up the plates. This area we're in right here in the Fiji, Tonga, Kermadec Island region. This area is in the edge of the plate here. The edge of the plate. Okay? If we have some major earthquakes, it's going to happen here. Large earthquakes are going to happen here by this weekend. That's why I believe that this earthquake here is going to propagate a much larger, shallower quake. 5.2, maybe 5.3 earthquake. We go south here. This earthquake is 236 kilometers southwest of Humatonga. H-O-U-M-A Tonga, Humatonga. They put this as a 4.9 again. This was a 5.3 earthquake. They downgraded to the 4.9. Nearly a half magnitude downgrade. I saw it happen. I was so astounded, I was calling the USGS all kinds of names. You can talk to Carol. You can talk to Carol. Carol was telling me, shut up, Ron. Quit talking like that. Carol was trying to calm me down. I was livid. Nearly a half magnitude downgrade of this earthquake. Down to the 0.9 society again. This was fairly shallow earthquake though. This is 167 kilometers, still a fairly shallow earthquake. Okay? But this again was far from the landmass to have any effect. This was a 5.3 earthquake, regardless of what USGS says it was. This was at least a 5.3 earthquake, a shallow earthquake. So I don't expect this to have any effect on anything happening during the next few days. But let's go south. This was a 5.3 earthquake downgraded from a 5.7. Again, nearly a half magnitude downgrade. Again, I was livid. I was livid. This earthquake happened at 8:06 this morning, Eastern Time. I was here in the office when it happened. Again, Carol had to say, sweetheart, calm down, it's only an earthquake. But again, this is 10 kilometers deep. This earthquake was a shallow earthquake. A shallow earthquake. So this is not going to propagate anything. It's not going to have any influence. I want to take you down between the North and South Island of New Zealand. Down here in the center of this water mass between the two islands, it's called the, excuse me, now I can't remember my train of thought. This is a strait, the Cook Strait. I don't know why my memory went boop, gone. This is the Cook Strait. The Cook Inlet is over in Alaska. This is the Cook Strait. We had a 4.0 shallow earthquake here this morning. It was in the water here. Nobody even felt this quake on either landmass here. And yes, there are cities on the south end of the North Island and the north part of the South Island. There are cities that could have felt this quake, but because it was right there in the middle of the water and it was only a moderate earthquake, nobody felt it. And yes, there are other smaller and minor earthquakes that have happened down here on the South Island, and there's about 14 earthquakes here in the North Island and the north side of the North Island over here in this great big huge catcher's mitt. The catcher's mitt here. Okay? These are just minor and small earthquakes, fortunately. Fortunately. But that's what's happened down here in the South Pacific. However, guess what's happening up here in the North Pacific? The Aleutian Islands here. Folks, this was a large 5.1 earthquake up here near Adak, Alaska. 65 kilometers south-southwest of Adak, Alaska, in the Aleutian Island Fault Zone area. This was also not near any islands here. The ocean waters of the Pacific Ocean absorbed the shockwaves of this large earthquake. A 5.1 earthquake, 35 kilometers deep, still a shallow earthquake, a very shallow earthquake. We go over here to the northwest. This is 102 kilometers west of Aveyah. This is just a 1.0 tremor here. Let's go over here to the northeast. This is a 3.6 here, 33 kilometers east-southeast of Aveyah. East-southeast of Aveyah. Look where it's at. It's on an island. It's on an island. This is a small earthquake. It has no effect. Nobody lives here. Nobody lives here at all. Okay? They got lucky. And yes, you can see two volcanoes, one to the northwest and one to the northeast here. Okay? But what is happening down here on the trench? This is 101 kilometers south-southeast of Aveyah. A 4.5 earthquake. 39 kilometers deep. This is a 3.5, also 39 kilometers deep. This earthquake here is a 4.0, 26 kilometers deep. Still modern earthquakes right here in the ocean here along the Aleutian Island fault zone. Nothing happened here. Nothing really happened. I believe even though there was some distance away from that large earthquake that wasn't that close to Aveyah, it was still a large earthquake. I believe that these other earthquakes are all aftershocks of that quake. Okay, aftershocks. Large earthquakes have minor earthquakes tailing them. Even though moderate earthquake is a minor earthquake, comparatively, it was out in the middle of the ocean and nobody even felt that quake. We go further north here, north and east. King Cove, Alaska. King Cove, Alaska. They say this is a minus 0.1 tremor. 26 kilometers deep. Let's look what happened here. Okay? The only reason this is a minus number is because it's on a volcano. It's on the flank of the volcano here. Now, I don't remember what this volcano's name is, but it's on the flank of the volcano. That means it's above sea level. All minus numbers are above sea level. That's all that indicates. There's also another, what they call a surface quake, a 0.0 magnitude quake. It's called a surface quake. But the fact of the matter is this was nowhere near the surface. This supposed surface quake was actually 27 kilometers deep. Over 6 miles deep. Unreal. Actually deeper than that. I believe that's probably closer to 14 miles deep. Okay? Near a volcano there. Interesting, huh? It's very interesting. Let's move over here into Alaska again, mainland Alaska. Let's go over here. What do we know about this? Old Iliamna volcano is here. Northwest of Old Iliamna, we have 2 earthquakes here. This is a 3.1 small quake near the volcano. This earthquake here is also 3.1 earthquake. Fascinating, because these earthquakes are a direct result of magma coming into that volcano. Old Iliamna volcano. We go further north over here to the Cook Inlet here. This is a 2.6 or 2.7 quake, minor earthquake, 73.8, 74 kilometers deep. Not a big deal. Okay? This earthquake is far from Anchor Point. Anchor Point, Alaska is probably about 100 miles away from Anchor Point. That's where this earthquake is, a 2.0 earthquake. Over here in the Cook Inlet. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. How about this? Now we are getting closer to Mount Redoubt volcano. They have this as a minus 0.7 microquake. Minus numbers again above sea level. Guess what, guys? This is 2.5 miles deep. 3.6 kilometers deep. Actually, I'm sorry, not 2 miles, 2.5, 1.5 miles down beneath the surface. Okay? Again, what do we have here? Can you say volcano? Volcano? That's a minus 0.7, allegedly above sea level. It's not. This is a minus 0.8, 3.7 kilometers deep. This is not a, this is above, not above sea level either. This is minus 1.0. This is at the surface, at or near the surface. This is 0.1 kilometers deep, literally mere feet from the surface of the volcano. Let's go further northwest here. Let's look at this. They say this is a minus 1.3 tremor here. 1.3 kilometers deep. This is a half mile deep here. It shouldn't even be minus numbers because I don't believe this is high altitude area here. This is a minus 1.4 here, also a half mile deep. Okay? In the foothills of Mount Redoubt. Fascinating. Further north here, 1.2 tremor here. Also near Mount Redoubt. We go further north here. Happy Valley. Happy Valley. This is north of Mount Redoubt. A 1.2 tremor. Also, guess what? It's a very shallow earthquake at 124 kilometers deep. It's deeper than all the others, but it's still considered a very shallow earthquake. 124 kilometers deep. Okay? We go further north here. Salatov, Alaska. Minus 0.6, allegedly above sea level. It's not. This is nearly 4 miles deep. What does USGS think they're doing? Nothing good. This is also supposedly a service quake, 0.0 magnitude. This, folks, is 8 kilometers deep. I shouldn't say 8. This is 8 miles deep. I'm sorry, it's not either. It's not 8 miles deep. That is approximately 5.5 miles deep. About 5.5 miles deep. We come back here to the Cook Inlet again, and we have a problem. We got some problem. USGS shut our feed down, so I'm going to have to bring it back up here. Stand by, guys. We do this all the time, every day. We do it all the time, every day. You'd think USGS would get the hint and just leave us alone. But they don't like doing it. That's my son, Paul. He'll probably be popping up here in the chat, I hope. Paul's going to call his mother. Well, I'm sure his mother's talking to him right now. There's some issues with our daughter, and I believe Paul is going to help her. At least I hope that's going to happen, okay? Anyway, let's go back up here to Alaska. I want to talk about a couple more things here, okay? Way up here to the north, I just love this, guys. I do. I just love it. Here we have another minus 0.6. Beluga, Alaska. Folks, this is 2.5 miles deep. 5.7 kilometers deep. 2.5 miles deep. This time we go further north here. Skeeton, Alaska. This is a 2.5 minor quake. 2.5 minor earthquake. 62 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake, huh? Let's see what we got going up here. Let's take a trip up to Denali, Alaska. I haven't been in Denali, Alaska since the mid-80s. I took my scout troop up here to Denali, Alaska to hike up Mount McKinley. We were probably one of the last scout troops ever to hike up Mount McKinley. We had to have a guide. My mother's brother, my uncle, took all of us on his plane. He had a private plane. He took all of us in his private plane and flew us to Anchorage. Then he took us over to the Denali Express, to the railroad, which took us up to Denali Base Camp. It was a great experience. I've never been on a railroad in Alaska, let alone visiting Denali, Alaska at all. It was a great privilege to be here. Over here, further to the northwest of Denali, on the edge of Denali. This is a 1.4 tremor here. This has no depth. Go figure. All the other earthquakes I've ever seen have a depth. This one does not. This earthquake here just happened. This earthquake is a 1.4 tremor, also with no depth. This earthquake also didn't just happen. This has been here for a little while. This earthquake has been here since 12:06 noon today. A 1.6 tremor here. This is 2.6 kilometers deep. This is 1 mile deep. Okay? Northwest Denali. Northwest Denali. Good old thing. Further to the north of Denali here. This is considered to be Ferry, Alaska. Ferry, Alaska. This is a small 3.1 earthquake. A small 3.1 earthquake. 115 kilometers deep. See this red earthquake here? Let's see what it is. It's a 1.5 tremor. 6.7 kilometers deep. Just barely 3 miles deep. We go further to the northwest here. Living Good, Alaska. I like to live good. I've never been in Living Good, Alaska. This is a 1.0 tremor, also 10 kilometers deep. Fascinating, huh? Let's go up here to Arctic Circle, Alaska. Okay? This is near Arctic Village, Alaska. 70 kilometers north of Arctic Village. This is in the Arctic Circle. This is a 2.1 minor earthquake here. This is the northernmost earthquake we see here in Alaska today. A 2.1 earthquake. Now, while that's the case, we go back down here to the Pacific Northwest. I talked to you last night about the Pacific Northwest. Some of you have told me that you have smelled sulfur here in the Pacific Northwest. You guys asked me specifically if Mount Rainier or Mount St. Helens was emitting sulfur dioxide. I don't know. So far, I have not talked to anyone who's seen either Mount Rainier or Mount St. Helens throwing up either ash or steam. Usually one or both volcanoes are steaming, but I can neither confirm or deny there's either one of those volcanoes is steaming. There are no pictures to prove that they are steaming. If any of you that live in this area, take a picture of St. Helens from wherever you're at, or Mount Rainier from wherever you're at, and if there's steam clouds above either of the volcanoes, that would give us an answer as to why you might be smelling sulfur. Sulfur dioxide might be emitted from the steam coming from these volcanoes. Neither one of the volcanoes is actually erupting, so you should not see any ash. It should be a clean white cloud coming from the volcano. Further to the south here, just a tiny thing here, just northwest of Mount St. Helens. Allegedly, this is a 0.9 1.0 tremor northwest of St. Helens. Not surprising. Not at all. USGS never tells us what's going on here in the Pacific Northwest that are lying through their teeth. 3.0 earthquakes hitting Rainier, 3.0 earthquakes also hitting Mount St. Helens. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth about anything here. Okay? Aaron Smith says no commercials yet or buffering. I've had a few commercials already on my side. I'm monitoring this on the monitor here, and I've seen like 3 commercials, 2 of them been about Miss Harris. I've hardly seen any commercials for President Trump. Okay? All of them about Miss Harris because Miss Harris is paying YouTube a lot of money to make sure her point is being known. Heaven forbid they tell us anything about Trump. Fascinating. Let's go over to Benton City, Washington. Okay, this is a 2.2 alleged explosion. Again, I doubt it's an explosion. This is a quarter of a mile deep. Allegedly, it's a quarter of a mile deep. Now, folks, I don't see, well, I do see here, this is about 3/4 of a mile from this quarry here. That's a quarry there, and this earthquake is all the way over here, about 3/4 of a mile away. I doubt that this is an explosion. It's a 2.2 earthquake here. A 2.2 earthquake. Now, why am I saying that? Down here to the south, we have the Columbia River. They called Benton City because guess what? This is also a volcanic area. Bentonite, or I shouldn't say bentonite, but basaltic lava is here. This is a basaltic lava bed here. And there may even be a volcano over here. There may even be a volcano. See this circle area here? This is where magma has come up here but has not broken the surface. Magma has pushed its way up towards the surface but has not broken through. Every time I see a circle area like this, I think, my gosh, what did they do now? But every time we've seen that, we've also seen that there's magma here. Magma here. Okay? All over Washington. This was not an explosion. That was an earthquake over here near Benton City, Washington. Okay? I just hate it when USBS automatically says, oh, that's an explosion or that was a quarry blast. Rarely are they ever. Okay? USGS scored a quarry blast yesterday, but all the other places were all false data. False data here. Let's go over here. I just love this. This one is supposedly 3 kilometers south of West Yellowstone. Fascinating here. South of West Yellowstone. I get the biggest kick out of this. Look where Yellowstone Lake is. Look where Yellowstone Lake is. Where is this earthquake here? It's not south of Yellowstone. It might be northwest of Yellowstone, but it's not south of Yellowstone. 1.5 miles south of Yellowstone. It's not. Okay? And I believe it's further than 1.5 miles. Okay? This was a 1.8 tremor. What do we have going on here at Yellowstone Lake? We haven't had any tremors here at Yellowstone Lake to speak of, or should I say, USGS not showing them. This is a 0.9, 1.0 tremor here at Yellowstone Lake. What else is here? This is a 0.8 microquake. What else is here? This is a 0.9 microquake, 1.0 tremor, 9.5 kilometers deep, 4 miles deep. This 0.9, 1.0 here, this is 1 mile deep here. Fascinating. Right underneath Yellowstone Lake. Now let's talk about Yellowstone Lake. The last time there was a brouhaha about Yellowstone Lake, there was a lot more earthquakes hitting here. A lot. Now why are we concerned about Yellowstone Lake? Why do you think we should be concerned about Yellowstone Lake? Can you tell me why we might be concerned about Yellowstone Lake? Let's move this over here so you can see it here. I'm not taking it down, I'm just moving it here so you can see my face. Beneath Yellowstone Lake, there is a magma dike. They call a magma dike, and it looks similar to this. Like an upside down arrowhead pointing up like this. It's a magma dike. Magma from a magma reservoir is trying to push its way up into Yellowstone Lake. Yellowstone Lake does not freeze over much anymore. Why? Because there's magma beneath the lake. There is magma beneath the lake, and it's heated up the lake. The heat is risen up here to the lake. Heat rises, doesn't it? Heat rises from the magma beneath it. So it's heated up Yellowstone Lake. These are only 3 tremors here. Basically 3 tremors. 0.2 0.9s, which are, we know the 0.9 society, we upgraded to 1.0 tremor. There's a 0.8 there as well. We have 3 tremors basically beneath Yellowstone Lake. We have magma trying to rise beneath Yellowstone Lake. It hasn't gotten very close to the surface of the lake. It's still down beneath the lake about a mile. Okay? That's what's happening at Yellowstone Lake. If we see any more earthquakes than this, if we see much more activity than this, then we can believe that something may be happening at Yellowstone Lake. But until then, I don't think that's the case. I just don't believe that's a big deal right now. Okay? My opinion. Does anybody have any questions about what I've said so far? Richard Smith says there's a 2.0 over near the Strait of Gibraltar. Yeah, when isn't there something happening there? But USGS will deny it happened. Don Patokas says, can you say steam bath? Oh yeah. And it is starting to get cold at Yellowstone. Heck, it's October. It's the beginning of October. It should be cold in Yellowstone, but Yellowstone Lake might be 50 to 60 degrees. That's because there's magma down beneath the lake and it's heating up the lake. It's killed all the fish, which were trout. Killed all those great eating trout. I'm real. Diane Kelman says, what did Ron call it, a magma dye? No, there's a magma reservoir, okay? A magma reservoir down beneath Yellowstone Lake. And we have a great big huge dike, D-I-K-E, a great big huge dike with magma forcing its way up towards the top, to the bottom of the lake. A dike, D-I-K-E, okay? A dike, okay? That's what's going on at Yellowstone. Diane says, thanks, Ron. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys a lot. You guys are great. I can't say enough about how wonderful you guys are. EMA family, you're awesome. You are awesome. We have the greatest family in YouTube history. I truly believe that. Richard Smith says a mutant gopher. A marmot creature, yeah. A marmot-style creature. Could be. But he's not living down beneath the lake. Okay? Unreal. Unreal. Any questions? Arnold Smith says no commercials yet. We're buffering. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Okay? Now, I haven't gotten any Harris commercials for the past 12 or 15 minutes. Go figure. Allegedly, YouTube says we have 57 people watching. I don't buy it. YouTube is suppressing our numbers. YouTube is suppressing our numbers tremendously. They don't give a wild kick about me. But 2 months ago, we had 3,000 people watching our program. 3,000 people watching our program. Now, yesterday when I got off the air, they said we had 300 and some people watching the program. I don't buy that at all. Now, further south from Yellowstone, over here in Robertson, Wyoming, I've been there. Robertson, Wyoming is over off Interstate 80. Good old Interstate 80. I just love Interstate 80. I drove from Cheyenne, Wyoming, over here to Yellowstone on Interstate 80. Elizabeth Hutch just gave us a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We appreciate that so much. God bless you for that. We appreciate that ever so much. I just love you guys. I appreciate that ever so much because YouTube keeps suppressing our numbers and you guys keep telling YouTube to take a hike into the deep Atlantic. That's awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it. Elizabeth says we're effective. I agree. I hope we're effective anyway. Okay? Anyway, let's go over here to north of Salt Lake here. Okay? I just love it. North of Salt Lake here in the great, northeast of the Great Salt Lake in Thatcher, Utah again. Good old Thatcher, Utah. Northeast of the Great Salt Lake here. This is a 1.6 tremor here. We have magma over here, okay? Why do I say that? In this area here, there is a geothermal facility here. It's a spa where they take heated water from the magma chamber beneath the lake, or not beneath the lake, but beneath the land mass here, and they heat up these thermal pools here at the geothermal facility. It's a spa. It's called Crystal Hot Springs. It's not near Thatcher, but it's in the same area. Okay? This is a 1.6 tremor here. Okay? This is 7 kilometers deep. 2 miles deep. Over here to the southeast here was that Robertson, Wyoming earthquake here, 2.1 minor earthquake there. Okay? Now I want to spend what time we have left on the program over here in Southern California. Okay? Yes, we have earthquakes here. Again, the agency is not going to tell us about the earthquakes. They have no intention of telling us about anything going on here or being truthful about it. This earthquake is out in the water here just to the west of San Pedro, California. Now this is about, I want to say close to, basically close to 10 miles out. 10 miles off the coast of San Pedro. A 2.2 minor earthquake here. Just to the north of there. Rolling Hills, California, also right here on the edge of the plate here. Right here. A 1.8 tremor here. Look at this. A housing area. We have never, as far as I know, have ever seen an earthquake here. Never. A 1.8 tremor here. Fascinating. Fascinating to say the least. But right over here, what is this? What do we call this, guys? What do we call this? This is Baldwin Hills. This is Baldwin Hills here, guys. This is the oil and gas pumping operation northwest of Los Angeles. Good old Baldwin Hills. Incredible. You can also see some oil tanks here now. This is the first time I've seen oil tanks here. I'm sure they've been here all along, but I've never seen them. The Baldwin Hills oil refinery here. Pulling oil and gas out of the earth over here in the Baldwin Hills. This has been ongoing for close to 100 years. Close to 100 years here in Los Angeles. They're not showing anything here, guys. Why? Because they're not going to tell us. They are absolutely not going to tell us. Now, I told you that earthquake here is off of San Pedro. I want to go over here just to give you an idea of what's actually here. Okay? What do we have here? What do we have here? This area here, guys, is where we've had a lot of landslides. Good old landslides over here in Los Angeles area. Okay? Lots of landslides. Then further south here, this area is called MacArthur Park. Good old MacArthur Park. It's basically a waterway to get out to the Pacific Ocean here. There's something else that you might want to know about. I believe right here, if I'm not mistaken, there is a warship. There's a warship parked right here. Okay? Fascinating. There's a battleship there. I don't remember what that battleship was called, but I wanted to tell you about it tonight since we were close to San Pedro. Oh yeah. And close to Palos Verdes. Good old Rancho Palos Verdes right there. Okay? Terrible thing here. Juby Joe, you're funny. Juby Joe is talking about her cat named Mama K. Unreal. Diane Kelman says, Arlo, I never thought of that. I've heard of mice camping out in RVs. Yes, so have I. We drove from Denver to Yellowstone in an RV. A friend of mine and I shared costs of the RV, and drove it into Yellowstone. It was a blast. By the time we got to Yellowstone, which was maybe, I want to say 18 hours after we started, guess what? We heard scratching beneath the console in the RV. There happened to be a couple of mice that had made homes in the RV right beneath the console in the front of the vehicle. Unreal. Mice love RVs. Mice love RVs. But look at this area of Los Angeles. USGS is not telling us hardly anything going on here. We go up here to the east. Huntington Park, California. A 1.1 tremor. 12 kilometers deep. Just over 6 miles deep. Interesting. Further south here, good old Villa Park here. Good old Villa Park in the foothills of the San Bernardino Mountains. Villa Park, a 1.7 tremor here. Also 9 kilometers deep. Just about 8 miles deep. We go further out here to the northeast. Ontario, San Bernardino County. Here's another 1.2. Right here, also in Ontario, 1.4 tremor here. Now, I used to know my way around Ontario pretty much. I could find almost anything here in the dark or with my eyes closed. This is over on one side of a highway. I don't remember the name of the highway here, but it's one side of the highway here right next to a freeway. A 1.4 tremor here. But further east, here's another 1.4 here. Fascinating. 5 kilometers deep. 2.5 miles deep. Folks, this is an area here. I was thinking this was near the mall, but it's not. This is a commercial area here. I don't recognize it right off the top of my head. And yes, it's been a long time since I've been here. I haven't been over here in like 25, 30 years. It's 2024. I don't believe I've been here since about 1990, 92, 93. Unreal. So things have changed. Good old Ontario, California. We go further out here to the northeast here. Fontana. Good old Fontana. Well, guess what, guys? There are earthquakes happening in Fontana. 2.0, 2.5, 3.0 earthquakes happening here in Fontana. And yet, USGS wants to tell us about a 1.0 tremor. What a joke. They're not being honest with any of us here about what's actually going on. To the southeast here. Also Fontana. 1 mile south of Fontana here. This is actually Fontana itself. It's a residential area. This is a 1.5. This is a 1.3 that just happened. This is 1.1. This is 1.7. This is 0.8. Folks, there's more seismic energy here than they're talking about. They want to talk about tremors or microquakes. They're full of beans. 2.5, 3.0 earthquakes here, all over Fontana. All over Fontana. This is a 1.6 tremor also here, 6 kilometers northeast of Fontana. Interesting. It's still Fontana. This is still Fontana here. Looks like a residential area. It is. It is. Interesting. Interesting. I just love Fontana. I do. It's a good area. It's a good area, but it's too darn close to the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault is just northeast of there. Right where this earthquake hit, this is just almost on top of the San Jacinto. And the San Andreas Fault is just northeast of there. good old San Andreas Fault. To the south, Redlands, right between the San Jacinto and the San Andreas, 1.4 tremor. We go south here, Marengo Valley, Orange County, California, 0.7 microquake. Banning on the San Andreas Fault, 0.3 microquake here. Right between Banning and the San Jacinto, we have another 0.5 microquake here. We follow the San Jacinto down here into the Anza Gap. Guess what, guys? The Anza Borrego Desert State Park. 0.7 here, 1.6 tremor here. Right next to that 1.6 is a 0.2 microquake. 15 kilometers deep. We go south also on the San Jacinto. 0.4 also over here in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. We come further down here, Borrego Springs. The Anza Borrego Desert State Park here. Apparently, my buddy Don Patoka, who's a mod here on this channel, said if you abuse this chat feature like he does, you could become and declared persona non grata. Don, I've never seen you abuse this chat. I've never seen Don abuse the chat. Juby Joe says, declare me PNG, my sharing. I love it. Unreal. You guys are great. Anyway, we go south and west here. San Diego County. Well, my golly here, we're over in Julian, California. Also in East San Diego County. Have I told you about Julian lately? What's here in Julian right now? Can you say apples? Apple trees ripe for the picking? Yes, they have apple trees here in Julian. This is just northwest of Julian. So Julian is actually further up into the hills here. They have apples here for the picking. If you come here into Julian, California, guess what? There are restaurants to dine in. There are trinket shops. There are some hotels and bed and breakfasts. Go over here to Julian and go apple picking. Pick your own apples. I think they used to cost $1 a bag. They may have gone up twice that to maybe $2.50 a bag now. But you used to go over there and pick apples for a few hours. You'd have your bag or 2 bags of apples and go over into downtown Julian and have hot apple pie and apple cider. Such a deal. I used to love downtown Julian. It was a blast. I've had more fun in downtown Julian than anybody should actually have. Julian is a great place. This is a 0.8 microquake over here in Julian. Wonderful thing. Julian ought to be paying me to talk about Julian. Renee Sevi says, do they have grapefruit? No. I've never seen any grapefruit in Julian at all. But plenty of apples, green and red apples. Right now I think they're mostly red. Oh, guess what? We got another cotton picking video here. Again, the Democratic Party telling us to keep our guns locked up. Democrat Communist Party doing their work here on YouTube. Fascinating thing. We go out to the east here, also still in Anza Borrego Desert State Park, at the top of the Chocolate Mountains here. We go to the south here. They call this Ocotillo Wells. This is in the foothills of the Chocolate Mountains on the east side of the Chocolate Mountains, Imperial Valley. We go over here closer to Salton Sea. This is a 1.5 tremor here. This is southwest of the of Salton City. Southwest of Salton City. What's here? Salton City is right here. Salton City is right there. It's an abandoned city. It's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. Nothing here. Yet we still get hit with earthquakes and tremors. Further north here, on the one side of the hillside over here, away from the Salton Sea, I should say. This is a 1.0 tremor. This is 15 kilometers east-southeast of Borrego Springs. East-southeast of Borrego Springs. USGS is showing it east-northeast. There's not. This is east-southeast of Borrego Springs. Okay? I wish USGS would get their butts out of their, or heads out of their butts. Could be the butt out of their heads. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm just so bad. Renee Steffi says she likes apple fritters. Personally, I do too. That's why I have a gut. Too many donuts when I was a cop. But that doesn't tell you the truth about why I've got a gut now. It's because I'm a diabetic. Down here in Mexico, this is a 2.0 earthquake. 40 kilometers east of Ensenada. 40 kilometers east of Ensenada. Ensenada is a port city here on the Baja California. I spent plenty of time once upon a day down here in Ensenada. Back in the early 90s, I took a cruise ship down here with a friend of mine and walked around Ensenada, then had dinner on the cruise ship and went back to San Diego that night. Great time. Ensenada is a small town, a pretty good city in Mexico down here in the Baja. A great place. Okay? A great place. I've had a good time down there. Now, we're not going to see any earthquakes calling down here in northern Mexico. I'm sure there are. I haven't checked lately, but usually there are a bunch of 3.5s and even 4.0s over here in the Gulf of California. Go figure. But they're not going to tell us, are they? Heck no. Heck no. Southwestern Texas. Toya, Texas. Yes, we are having earthquakes here. Why? Oil and gas fracking operations all over this area. This is a 2.0 here. This is over near New Mexico, but it's not in New Mexico. USGS has been calling this white city. It's not. This is southwestern Texas. Also oil and gas fracking operations here. You can see the oil and gas platforms right here. Literally all over this area, oil and gas going on. That is a 1.7 tremor. This is a 1.6. This is a 1.4. Further to the south here is a 1.8. And over here to the southwest here is a 1.7. Oil and gas fracking operation earthquakes. That's why they're happening. Go further to the southeast here. Toya, Texas, a 2.0. There is a 1.8 here, and right here is a 1.6. Also fracking operations all over that area. Now, I don't know how many oil and gas pumping operations they have in Texas, but I've been told when I was in Oklahoma that they have 586,000 pumps and jacks in Oklahoma. Good old Oklahoma. Come over here. Okay? This is northern Texas, Midland, Texas here. It's also 1.0 tremor, oil and gas here. This is 8.6 kilometers deep. Over here, Ackerley, Texas here. Why are we here in Ackerley, Texas? A few weeks ago, we had a 5.1 earthquake here in Ackerley, Texas. Oil and gas fracking earthquakes. Oil and gas fracking earthquakes. That's a 3.2 small quake. This is a 2.1, 35 kilometers west-southwest of Ackerley, Texas. Fascinating. Fascinating. Any questions about Texas? Let's go over here further to the east. Davis, Oklahoma. Davis, Oklahoma. Supposedly, Davis, Oklahoma had a quarry blast. Quarry blast. This happens to be at a quarry, believe it or not. USGS got this one right. A 1.3 tremor at Davis, Oklahoma, quarry blast. Fascinating. That's fascinating. Up here to the north, nothing to do with quarries. This is an oil and gas fracking operation quake. Prague, Oklahoma, a 1.4 tremor here. Let's zoom in here and look at the oil and gas platforms here. All over Prague we have oil and gas platforms. Let's see what we see here. Shoot, they're not going to let me show you the oil and gas platform right next to this earthquake. Dadgummit, not going to let me get this close. That is right next to an oil and gas pumping jack and pump right there. Prague, Oklahoma. About 6 or 8 months ago, we had a massive swarm of earthquakes here. Massive swarm of quakes. I think the biggest was a 4.5 to 4.8 earthquake. Moderate quake. But there's also oil and gas operations all over Prague, Oklahoma. All over. It's insane, guys. It really is. Let's go further over here to the east. Guess what? Hobart, Oklahoma. Guess what? Hobart, Oklahoma. They're calling this a quarry blast as well. Let's go take a look at it. Nowhere near a quarry, is it? Not anywhere near a quarry. I wonder where they got this earthquake. This is a 1.6 tremor nonetheless. I don't see oil and gas pumping operations necessarily, but this is a 1.6 tremor. It's not a quarry blast. Nowhere near a quarry. It's probably close to 3 miles away from the quarry. There's a quarry right there. It's not anywhere near the quarry. Sorry, USGS, you guessed wrong. Ron 1, USGS 1. Yes, USGS had a quarry. This time they don't. So during this broadcast, Ron's 1, USGS is 1. Arnold Smith says, Don Patoka, nobody moves. Nobody gets hurt. Oh, gosh, you guys are funny. Juby Joe says she has an avocado that was rubber and ripe and couldn't believe it. I'd love to have a nice, ripe avocado right now. In fact, I'm going to go to the store tomorrow, maybe get me one. Folks, over here on the Pneumatic Fault, I want to get here all night. This is Ridgely, Tennessee. Ridgely, Tennessee. Folks, we have all kinds of earthquakes here in Ridgely, Tennessee. This is a 2.5. This is a 2.5 minor earthquake over here in Ridgely, Tennessee. It's east. It's just east of the Pneumatic Fault. It's east of the Pneumatic Fault here. You can see the Pneumatic Fault right here. Fairly close. I believe we can claim that the Pneumatic Fault causes earthquake in Ridgely, Tennessee. 2.5 earthquake here. Right alongside the Pneumatic Fault. Right there. Right there. It's there. It's not going anywhere. All kinds of seismic activity over here on the Pneumatic Fault. Ridgely, Tennessee. Arkansas, up and down the entire fault line. We have earthquakes over in the Pneumatic area in Missouri. all over Missouri, period. Earthquakes all over this area. None of them big. None of them big. Insane. It's really insane, it is. Now, I want to show you something. Since we're talking about the pneumatic fault. And like I said, I love the pneumatic fault. You guys must think I'm nuts, but I'm totally bizarre. Folks, this is Little River, right next to Little Rock. Look at all the seismic activity here. It's no joke. No joke. Right next to Little Rock. Look at this. Let me enlarge this. I want to show you what's going on near Little Rock. Look at that. 3.0 earthquakes. 3.0 earthquakes in the morning. Just about 10:41 a.m. this morning. There was a 3.0 earthquake swarm here between 10:41 and 10:47. Look at that. Small earthquake swarm. And there's a bunch of tremors here as well, and minor earthquakes. Little River, Arkansas. Incredible, huh? Well, guess what? There's more. There's more. I'm going to show you the few earthquakes I want to show you here that are of substance. This is Mark Tree, Arkansas. We always have earthquakes here. Look at this. Yes, we have 3.0 earthquakes here. A bunch of them. We also have swarms that are not 3.0. They range in size from like 1.4 all the way up to 2.5 earthquakes. The swarms. The swarms. For example, on the red line here. On the red line to the right here. Okay? This is about 4:25 a.m. this morning on the red line. What do we have? It starts off with a 1.2 tremor and builds up to a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake. Now, this earthquake sequence continues over here on this blue line. 4:30 this morning. This earthquake lasted 4 minutes right before 4:30. Over here on the 4:30 line, this lasted another minute and a half. 5.5 minutes of shaking. Yes, it's minor tremors and earthquakes. But it's still a quake sequence nonetheless. Let's go over here to the top though. Okay? This is at midnight last night. Midnight last night. This is a 3.0 earthquake sequence. Now, I believe if I would have put up the sequence from the night before, we would have seen this continue for probably 4 minutes. We see all kinds of sequences like this all the time here at Mark Tree, Arkansas. Look at that. This happens every day, not just yesterday or the day before that. Every day these earthquakes happen at Mark Tree, Arkansas. Let's continue here. Again, this is the center of the pneumatic fault. Okay? I want to go over to Truman, Arkansas. This is Truman, Arkansas. Look at the earthquakes here and tremors. Look at this. After 9, I want to say 9:20 a.m. this morning on the red line. Look at this sequence of 3.0 earthquakes that lasted like 3.5 minutes. 3.0 sequence of earthquakes here at 9:20 to 9:23 a.m. this morning. Wild, huh? Oh yeah. Big time wild. Big time wild. All the rest of these are minor tremors here. Long duration tremors. Now, let me pull up some more earthquakes here. Truman, Arkansas this afternoon. Look at these. Look at these guys. 3.0 earthquake sequences all afternoon long. Literally all afternoon. We had a bunch of tremors this morning, but all afternoon long we have 3.0 earthquakes. Fascinating. This is what's happening on the pneumatic fault the USPS refused to talk about. Refusing to talk about it. How about Guam, Missouri? Look at Guam, Missouri here. Yes, we have some smaller sequences of tremors here. But we're seeing 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes. And, not to be outdone here, but let me enlarge this so you can see it. On this green line here, this is 6:55 this morning. 6:55 this morning on this green line. 3.0 earthquakes lasting about a minute and a half. Off and on for a minute and a half. 3.0 sequence of earthquakes. Then we come down here to after 9 a.m. here on the black line. We come across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually 4. 9:04 a.m. this morning, we had some tremors building up to a 3.0 earthquake a minute and a half later. Okay? 9:06 a.m. right here, right next to the 9:06 a.m. line, we have a 3.0 earthquake. And no, USPS is not talking about it. Heaven forbid they tell us what's going on. They're not going to do it. They never do. Rarely do they ever tell us about 2.0s or even tremors. Rarely ever. You have to literally yank their teeth out to show anything here on the pneumatic fault. Diane Kemmel says lots of action in Arkansas. You're right. A ton of action in Arkansas. Unreal. How about Barker Cemetery, Missouri? Barker Cemetery, Missouri this morning. Look at this. Nothing happened early. Nothing happened at midnight. It all starts after 4:15 this morning. 4:15 on the red line to the left. We come over here. This is approximately 4:26 a.m. this morning. 2.8 earthquake. Then closer to 6:13 a.m. this morning, we have another 3.0 earthquake at Barker Cemetery. We have never had small earthquakes at Barker Cemetery before. They've always been tremors and or minor earthquakes. Look at these 3.0 earthquakes at Barker Cemetery this morning. Look at that. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 3.0 earthquakes. Yes, we have some minor tremors. We have some minor earthquakes as well. But 9 3.0 earthquakes at Barker Cemetery. We've never had that before. Never. But today we do. Incredible. Now, let's see about Guam, Missouri. Guam, Missouri, look at this. We've seen 3.0 activity at Guam, Missouri. We've also seen long-term tremors. Guess what? I believe we have not had a 3.0 earthquake here before. I mean, today, but we've had tremors. and minor earthquakes. Tremors and minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.9, and a bunch of 1.0s to 1.9s. Okay? That's what happened here at Guam, Missouri. All morning long. All morning long. Also, Barker Cemetery this afternoon, look at that. More earthquakes. More earthquakes here at Barker Cemetery. We have at least, what? Let's see, we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 3.0 earthquakes here this afternoon. Fascinating. Fascinating, guys. Diane Kimmel says, I wonder how close we really are before the new fault. Let's go. Diane, I think we're 2 years away. And I'm giving that some. That might happen before that. It might happen before that. Hurricane Heather says she's going to walk her puppy. Much love, family. Hurricane Heather, we love you, girl. Hope you have a good night. Hurricane Heather has been with me forever. She has. She and her wonderful husband have stood by me through thick and thin for about 5.5 years. Great people. Great people. Dan Kellen says, this is scary. You're right. The pneumatic fault is going to go. I think it might be 2 years away from going, though. Why do I say that? Because, guys, it's taken 3 years, maybe longer to get here. 3 years or longer to get here. Okay? I've seen it happen. One more here in East Prairie, Missouri, then we'll let you go. Good old East Prairie, Missouri. I just love this. Look at this. Now, we've never seen earthquakes like this at East Prairie before. Yes, we have tremors here, but this is not just tremors here. This is not just tremors. These are full-blown 3.0, maybe even close to 3.5 earthquakes here. East Prairie, Missouri. This is the center of the pneumatic fault. The center of the pneumatic fault. Incredible. Yes, Heather has a wonderful husband. He's taking care of her and she's taking care of him. And they've got a pretty good dog. They've got a pretty good dog. Although the dog has actually got more exercise out of Hurricane Heather because he drags her. That's one of the reasons why she got her hand hurt, because of her puppy dog. Diane Cummins saying, are they doing anything different than in the past, like drilling or fracking? No. This is not drilling and fracking. These are earthquakes that are happening on the pneumatic fault. Okay? Right smack dab on the pneumatic fault. No oil or
earthquake upgraded to 4.0
any other.
from 3.9 location, New Zealand, last flight 17 minutes ago.
Another 4.0 earthquake in New Zealand. Let's go take a look at it. Because I don't believe USGS is going to show it to us. They haven't been showing us any of the other 4.0s that have happened. So let's take a look at what the EMSC map is going to say. So let's go over here and bring up the EMSC map. I just love this. Unfortunately, they're not going to show much of anything. The EMSC map is going to show this. Okay? Okay, EMSC is not showing the 4.0. They downgraded this quake from a 4.0 earlier today. Earlier this afternoon, this was a 4.0. They downgraded this to a 3.08. This is in the Cook Strait right between the North and South Island here in New Zealand. Let's go north. Yes, there are a couple minor earthquakes here to the south. Over here to the southeast, Canterbury, New Zealand. This is a 2.4 on the South Island here. Minor earthquake there. Over almost directly east, we have another 2.58. 2.58 right there. Now, let's go over to the North Island here. This is in the Stratford district on the North Island of New Zealand. This is a 4.1 earthquake here. Stratford district, New Zealand here on the North Island. A 4.1 moderate quake. USGS is calling these light quakes. There's nothing light about a moderate earthquake. Okay? To the north of there, this may have been a 4.0 also earlier. They've downgraded this to 3.97. Downgrade to a 3.97. Just southeast of there, this is a 2.66 quake here. 2.66 quake there. Now, I want to show you something. I show you those two quakes. Well, guess what? What is this right here? What is this right here? This is Rappahannock volcano. Rappahannock volcano. They're not talking about that, are they? Rappahannock volcano is getting hit with 1.2, 1.7, and even 2.0 earthquakes here at Rappahannock volcano. 3 years ago, there was a small eruption at Rappahannock. A small eruption at Rappahannock. Some of you may have been with me when we showed you that earthquake and that volcano. By the way, when there's a volcanic eruption, there's usually a 5.0 earthquake accompanying that eruption because it's forcing magma up into the volcano like this, and it erupts, causing rock fracturing. A 5.0 earthquake. Over here to the southeast coast here, this is a 2.38 earthquake here. 2.38 earthquake right there. Look at that. It's on the east side of the fault zone. East side of the fault zone here. Okay, let's go north. Just off the coast here, we have a 2.21. A 2.21 off the east coast of New Zealand. This is called Raoul Island. The North Island of New Zealand is called Raoul Island. R-A-U-L-E Island. Okay? Then let's go back to the west. Just north of Topo Volcano. Just north of Topo Volcano, we have a 2.29 earthquake. That lake there is Topo Lake, and that signifies Topo Volcano. So just north of Topo Volcano on the earthquake fault, we have a 2.29 minor earthquake. To the north of that, Waikato, New Zealand. This is a 2.24. 2.24 minor earthquake. Now, let's go over to the Catcher's Mitt. Okay? Good old Catcher's Mitt. That's a 2.72 earthquake. Let's go over to that earthquake fault that you see there. Okay? This is a 2.67 earthquake, minor earthquake there. To the east of there, this is a 2.34. Okay? It's the Bay of Plenty, by the way. I call it the Catcher's Mitt because I've always called it that. But it's not. It's called the Bay of Plenty. Over to the east side of New Zealand here, to the north. Here we call Te Kaha. Te Kaha. This is a 2.67 earthquake here. It's over on the northeast peninsula of New Zealand. Te Kaha. T-E-K-A-H-A. Te Kaha. New Zealand. Okay? Then we have 4 earthquakes up here in the Kermadec Islands. USGS showed us 1. We have 4 earthquakes here in the Kermadec Islands. Let's take a look at that. Right here, that's a 4.1 earthquake. 4.1. Almost directly east of there, we have a 3.93. 3.93, and that's right on the top of the fault zone here. South of there, this is a 3.07. Small earthquake in the Kermadecs. On the other fault line, coming out of Tonga, we have a 3.80. That's what's going on. Now, we told you about this earthquake earlier. Also north of the Kermadec Islands. This is a 5.3 earthquake here. A 5.3 earthquake here, north of the Kermadec Islands. The Kermadec Islands, folks, are bird sanctuary islands. No humans live there. You can't even get there except during high tide, because the islands are volcano-made, and surrounding the islands are craggy upshots of more underwater volcanic action, lava. So if you come here at high or low tide, your boat's going to be dashed on the underlying volcanic stumps, and you're going to die. Your boat's going to get sunk. Okay? That is what's going on in New Zealand. Now, one more thing, and we're going to get out of here. One more thing, we're going to get out of here. This is southwestern Australia. Shire of Training. This is a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. Southwestern Australia. To the south of there, Bannister, Western Australia. This is a 2.0 earthquake. Usually over here in western and southeastern Australia, we've had dozens of 2.0 earthquakes. 2.0, 2.9 earthquakes here all the time. And that's what is the case over here in southwestern Australia today. Those are the only earthquakes that they told us about in Australia at all. Okay? Incredible. Do you have any questions for me? Dan Campbell says, I've heard Ron talk about these islands. Yeah, I have. Talked about them all the time. Does anybody have any questions for me? Remember the sunspot. Sunspot 3842 Earth facing. That sunspot has launched a 7.1 and 9.1 X class flares. Now, this same sunspot that we talked about is Earth facing and is going to be Earth facing for another 2 or 3 days. We could see similar sun activity, eruptions from the sun, Earth facing on that same sunspot during the rest of the weekend. Be advised, it could happen. After this program, go over to Mark Wage's program. I don't know whether he's on the air or not, but when he goes on the air, he will be talking about this solar flare, these 2 solar flares, X-class flares today. We are going to have earthquakes because of those flares, guaranteed. Guaranteed. Okay? Remember this. Tomorrow is Preparedness Friday. Come tomorrow, come here we're going to be on the air at 6 o'clock. 6 p.m. unless there's something big happening that I'm having to investigate to bring to you. I will be on the air at 6 p.m. Come here with questions about preparedness. Come here with questions about preparedness or sharing things with all of us. Because we will be talking about preparedness, and it's just not earthquake preparedness. We're going to be talking about hurricane preparedness, shooting preparedness. We've been having a lot of shootings all over this world. We need to be prepared for shooting episodes. We need to be preparing for winter now. Winter blizzard preparedness plans. Okay? Prepare for it. It's going to happen. Tornadoes. We're still in tornado season, hurricane season. I believe we're going to see at least 1 or 2 more hurricanes between now and the end of November. Be prepared for it. Sage Pup says, Wages World is not on yet. Good, because I want to be there when it goes on the air. That's great. Don Patoka says, even preparedness. Yes, absolutely. Don, you're a riot. Now, I want to talk about a scripture before we go. Why am I talking about this? This is in the Book of Mormon. This is also in the Bible. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father who is in heaven. In other words, we have to obey the commandments of God. We have to obey the commandments of God to go into heaven. Because if we're not obeying the commandments of God, who are we following? Satan. I don't want to follow Satan. I don't want anything to do with Satan. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of the Father, my Father, which is in heaven. Remember that scripture. That's important. We need to continue obeying the commandments of God to enter into heaven. Promise. Promise. Folks, also, there's something else we also need to mention. Okay? If any of you have family or friends anywhere near Asheville or anywhere where there's been major damage, look at this. Call this number and tell them exactly where your family is located in Asheville or the corresponding area. The Brevard County Sheriff is there. Okay? Call that number and tell them where your family is. This is the National Guard's number in North Carolina. 252-299-2080. Also call 888-892-1162. 1162. Okay? Those are good numbers. I also want to show you this. How to get in touch with loved ones. North Carolina residents, dial 211. Dial 211. Non-residents, you can dial 888-892-1162 to report missing loved ones. Okay? I did my good deed to everybody here in this family, and I'll continue to do that. If someone you know that you love is lost over here, I've made calls to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, and I will do it again to Buncombe County Sheriff's Office as well. Okay? Please remember these numbers. If you forget them, come back here to this video. I showed them last night. I'll show them to you tonight. Okay? These are the numbers you get a hold of to report people that are missing. Again, there are at least 215 people already dead, deceased, as a result of Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina and the rest of the East Coast. From Florida north to Virginia. Over 250 people dead as a result of that hurricane. We believe the numbers to be more like 300 plus people declared dead, and there's at least 1,100 people still missing. Okay? Yes, Juby Joe, backroads people. Like I showed you in the video, those are backroads people, a lot of them. They don't like being near towns, they like being on their own out in the outback here in North Carolina. That's why people are here. Okay? Don Patoka says, where's FEMA? That's what everybody would like to know. They said FEMA was over in Asheville yesterday, giving away money, $750 a piece per person. But they're giving Mr. Zelensky in Ukraine $9 billion. Biden crime family is giving away our tax money to Ukraine to the tune of $9 billion. And giving these illegal aliens anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a piece every month. Our tax dollars. Why are they not giving it to people that really need it, that are citizens of this country? Why are they not doing it? So many men and women say, Lord, Lord, and yet do not do what the Lord is asking us to do. But they rather do it for political reasons. It's not right. Not right at all. Guys, I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Pray. Pray is always a good idea. Never forget, nothing is more powerful than prayer. Nothing is stronger than faith. And nothing is greater than God. Amen. Have a good night, folks. Again, if anything else happens tonight, we will be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Please, folks, if you want to contact us, send me an email, rltnspdema@gmail.com. If you want to help support this program, in the program, top of the program description below this program, you're going to see our email address. You're also going to see our personal physical address here in Morganton. Here in Morganton. Folks, you can get a hold of me. You can help support this program. I promise you, you can help support this program. Okay? Just go down to the bottom of this video into our program description. Again, our email address, our physical address, 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina, 28655. We also have 2 PayPal locations and a Venmo location you can send your support to. I appreciate everything you've done to help support this program. Don Patoka just put up our email and our physical address here in North Carolina. Thank you so much, Don. I appreciate you, brother. God be with you until we meet again. I mean that. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.